Hello and welcome to our podcast through the University of Kansas Medical Center. My name is Angela Carrasco, and joining us today we have Goldie Pappan Hall, an alumna from the Doctor of Audiology program in the Intercampus Program in Communicative Disorders at the University of Kansas. Thank you for joining us today, Goldie.
Thank you, Angela.
You graduated from KU's Au.D program last year in 2018, and since then obtained a position in Alaska. I can't say we've had a lot of graduates go to Alaska. Please tell us what led you to the last frontier.
So, growing up, I received the majority of my health care from Indian Health Service. That is a federal entity that provides health care services to Native people that have a certificate of Indian blood or some type of tribal membership showing that they have that heritage. So having received my health care from that setting, I wanted to work in that setting. I felt as though my care was good, but where I work currently, it's a little bit different. I looked at multiple Indian Health Service sites, a couple in New Mexico, a couple in Arizona, and one here in Alaska. And I ended up choosing Alaska just because of how innovative they run their healthcare system. So the company I work for, South Central Foundation, it is owned and operated by Alaskan Natives and American Indians, and they receive federal funding from Indian Health Service. So this empowers the folks that I serve to own their own health care and have say in the way their care is implemented. And when people have a greater sense of ownership, their buy-in is better. Additionally, my husband wasn't crazy about moving to the desert. He was a lot more excited about Alaska, and we enjoy being outside and have been really enjoying all of the activities, fishing, hiking, kayaking, and just have a little bit more variety of things to do outdoors here.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Currently, I work in an outpatient clinic. So I work in a clinic where there is primary care, optometry, speech-language pathology, OT, PT, all under one roof. And throughout the day, I see individuals across the lifespan. So I may see an 89-year-old elder for a hearing aid fitting at 8:30 in the morning, and then see a child 6 weeks old at 11 o'clock for a hearing screening. So I get the diversity of being able to see individuals with different needs, which keeps it challenging and exciting for me. Additionally, I travel out to tribal villages to provide clinical care quarterly. Right now, I manage the Iliamna Lake region for audiology care, which includes Iliamna, Tyonek, Igiugig, as well as Non-Dalton. Additionally, I manage McGrath, Tacotna, Nikolai, and Sutton. So I make quarterly visits out to those villages to provide audiologic care to folks who otherwise may not receive that care. It's much more convenient for them to receive care at home in their village instead of having to fly to Anchorage or to Wasilla to receive care from an audiologist.
So you're talking about traveling out to tribal villages to provide audiological services. Do you have very many patients that travel to you? And if so, are they traveling long distances?
Yes. So even whenever I go out to some of the tribal villages within that area, so every village kind of has a hub. So there's different regions within Alaska. And so the regions that I serve are geographically massive. So even though it may be this one lake area, someone still may have to fly an hour to come see me. And it's not American Airlines or anything cushy like that. It's a little bush plane. So max holding 12 people, the smallest one I personally have flown in held 3 people, and it was quite thrilling.
I bet so. Have you had any other surprises with being an audiologist in Alaska?
One aspect that was really surprising to me was the different foods that I am offered. So a lot of the folks that I serve and also work with have the subsistence lifestyle. What that means is that they rely on the land around them for a good majority of their food items. So I have eaten food items that I never would have dreamed of, including a bowhead muktuk, that is raw whale. I did my best to eat it, but had a hard time with the texture. I've had boiled walrus, which I actually really liked. I've had dried seal oil, dried fish with seal oil. So a lot of the food has been very surprising, and, you know, I always try my best to stomach it and then express my gratitude, but there have been a few items that I had a really hard time with, but thankfully the folks I serve are very good-natured and they find it amusing.
I bet so. You could just call it your Alaskan sushi.
Yes. At work sometimes people bring in different food like Eskimo ice cream. It's a whipped up seal blubber or whale blubber with berries, fish, and breadcrumbs. And if you don't have blubber, you can use Crisco. You know, people like to watch the lady eat the native food and take pictures and stuff. So
I bet that is amusing for them. Well, you're a good sport, Goldie. I hear you're a big advocate for the field of audiology. Please tell us about your recent trip to the Capitol in Washington, D.C.
Yes, Angela, I am very passionate about advocacy. Recently, I went to Washington, D.C. as the Alaska delegate for the American Speech Language Hearing Association Audiology Advisory Council. This council is comprised of an audiologist from each state that comes to ASHA headquarters every year to advocate for audiology on Capitol Hill. What that looks like is we meet with different legislators and their staffers to discuss the issues affecting people. And one issue that we particularly talked about was IDEA funding. In the past, the federal government has only delivered 17% of what was promised. So we were advocating for them to provide 40% of the promised amount. So that way we could elevate those services to those children that require additional supports and services to reach their educational potential. I got to meet with folks from the offices of Senator Murkowski, Senator Sullivan, as well as Representative Young. Their staffers were very receptive and just interested to learn about the different challenges of folks with hearing loss and other communication disorders in Alaska. They were very receptive and just interested in what we had to say, and I made some good connections that I'll definitely be using. I'll be reaching out just to remind our legislators of the issues affecting people here. I also got to reconnect with my professor, Dr. Cole Campbell, who is the Kansas delegate for the Audiology Advisory Council. And it was really nice just to be able to see him and reconnect.
And how did you become the Alaskan representative for this council?
At work, I had asked around, and I was like, I'm really interested in advocacy. How do I get involved? What can I be doing? And someone was like, so there's a position. Are you interested? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll apply for it. And then they're like, hey, would you like to do this? And so I said, absolutely. I had never been to D.C. before and had never gone to advocate, for federal things in Washington, D.C. So that was a really, really, really exciting experience for me. Something I've always wanted to do but hadn't, had the financial means to do. But thank you very much to the ASHA members that pay their dues, that allow us to go and advocate on your behalf and for the folks that you serve.
Well, knowing you as a student in our AUD program, I think this is a very fitting position for you, and you'll do excellent in it.
Thank you, Angela.
You bet. What originally helped you become interested in audiology?
It was a long and winding road. So I did not graduate high school thinking I wanted to be an audiologist. Initially, I wanted to be a mental health counselor. So I earned my associate's degree at Butler County Community College in Andover, Kansas. And then decided, I'd like to go further and get a bachelor's degree. So I moved to Lawrence and was looking at the different class schedules, had selected several psychology classes, and then saw a communication sciences and disorders class, and I thought, well, to be a good counselor, I should definitely know about communication. I should know the different impairments that folks experience, so that way I can, really address their needs and help them reach their full potential. But then, during that class taught by Dr. Nancy Brady, meeting with her, I was just really interested in audiology. It was so fascinating. And one aspect that I really liked about it was there were measurements that you could do for threshold. There was objective physiological testing. Mm-hmm. And in psychology, there's lots of inventories, but there's not any of that objective physiological testing unless you look at electroencephalography, which is used, but not necessarily in a mental health clinic. So Dr. Ferraro actually came and gave a lecture on hearing science to that class, and just hearing about the intricacies of the ear, I was like, that's what I want to do. And knowing that there were solutions for people with hearing loss. Mm-hmm. It's funny that I didn't think to do that earlier because my dad has hearing problems. Most of the men in my family do because everyone works, blue-collar jobs, like at the meat packing plant, at the Rubbermaid factory in Winfield, Kansas, mm-hmm. or at the power plant. So I feel like audiology for me really brings out two of my best strengths, which is problem solving and compassion. So it really allows me to have a fulfilling career. I'm greatly enjoying being out in the field and getting to serve people.
Wonderful. So how do you think the University of Kansas prepared you for your career?
I felt very ready whenever I graduated. And I'm not sure that all AUD students do whenever they graduate from other programs. I felt like the University of Kansas Medical Center provided me a diverse array of clinical experiences. I was able to work with children with multiple and complex disabilities. I was able to work with folks who were cochlear implant recipients. I was able to work with folks who are experiencing balance disorders. So just having a well-rounded, intensive clinical training experience really set me up for success. I am the only audiologist here, and I'm really thankful because had I not been taught in a manner that really encouraged me to be self-sufficient and be a good clinician, I don't think that I could be successful as a solo practitioner in my outpatient clinic.
Absolutely, and you're working with so many different professionals across the board that makes a difference as well.
Absolutely.
When you were at KU, in what types of programs or volunteer work and such did you participate?
So I was a very active member of the Student Academy of Audiology, and what that is, it's the branch of AAA for students, and in that organization, I was the advocacy liaison. I was a member of a couple different national committees for SAA, including the Public Outreach Committee, and then also Advocacy Committee. So those were two activities in which I participated, but I also had the privilege of getting to be a LIND trainee. LIND stands for Leadership in Education and Neurodevelopmental and Other Related Disorders. This training program is provided to students in multiple disciplines, all at the graduate level, so that way you can learn about how to serve children and their families who experience multiple complex disabilities and just understand how needs change across the lifespan for those individuals. That was just a very powerful training experience, and I draw from that experience on a daily basis. I see a high incidence of children with different challenges, including fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, autism. So I really feel like I can provide just specialized care to those individuals with those special needs. And I also worked as a direct support professional. So I got to work with two young men with autism to teach them daily living skills. We learned how to load the dishwasher, how to do laundry, how to introduce ourselves, how to make change when needed. So there was lots of life skills. I missed that role, but I feel like I get to do lots of training here with people, teaching them how to communicate more effectively, how to use their hearing aids or implants. I feel like I still get to work with individuals in a way that helps them learn how to enhance their communicative abilities. And that is very satisfying for me, being able to work with individuals with those challenges and get to watch them communicate and interact with other people confidently.
Absolutely, and especially since you're now working with tribal communities, it sounds like that LIND project really blended well in what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
So I do understand you're an enrolled member of the COG Nation Tribe. You mentioned earlier that you became interested in being an audiologist and working with the Indian Health Service. So it sounds like your upbringing has definitely had influence on your interest in serving tribal communities. How has your tribe supported you in your education, and have you noticed any other influences from your tribe within audiology?
So my tribe actually has its own small outpatient clinic, and I would eventually like to see them have audiology services. But my tribe has been very supportive of me. So education is, especially higher education, can be very expensive, but my tribe financially supported me and made it to where I did not have to incur a crippling amount of debt in order to earn my degree. So in addition to them being financially supportive, growing up, I got to go to tribal events such as powwows. I grew up hunting, fishing, and just really enjoyed those activities with my families.
Excellent. And it sounds like you and your husband are adjusting very well to Alaska and the different lifestyle and the outdoorsy sort of fun you can have there.
Yes, so we had a bunch of snow last week, actually 30 inches where I like to go play in the snow. It's called Hatcher Pass. It's just a beautiful remote area where you can go skiing. I actually bought some cross-country skis and have been trying those out. I really enjoy it. My husband has started snowboarding. He's gotten pretty good. So we really have adapted well, and though I enjoy the snow, I'm looking forward to kayak season and getting out and fishing. We arrived in Alaska late June, so we didn't do as much fishing as I would have liked, but this year, I have some PTO accrued, and I'm definitely going to try to catch as much salmon as I can.
Absolutely. Now, I've been complaining a lot about the winter that we had here in the Kansas, Missouri, Midwest area, but I guess after your 30-some inches of snow in what is now spring for us, I shouldn't be complaining anymore about our polar vortex. So, Goldie, how did you go about finding this job in Alaska, considering you graduated from a university in the Midwest?
Admittedly, I had never been to Alaska before we moved, so I had seen none of this before and just decided to go for it. But how I found out of the KC metro area jobs, I feel like Here Careers is a really good platform to use because you can quickly apply for multiple jobs. I understand that whenever you're coming up on graduation, you have a lot going on. It may seem as though students should have lots of free time, but preparing for graduation takes a lot of time in regards to planning events, and also you may be taking additional, electives as you are in your externship. But Here Careers makes it really easy to apply for multiple different types of jobs and to find the type of job that would be good for you. I did not have as much luck on Glassdoor, Monster.com, or Indeed. I strongly suggest Here Careers. Additionally, I looked on usajobs.gov. That is a website that posts all federal jobs available, and so that's a good way to just explore VA jobs as well as IHS and, Department of Defense jobs.
That's great information for our graduates. Thank you very much. To end here,
I understand that as a student, money sometimes is tight, but Here Careers is absolutely free.
And is that Here Careers like HEAR?
Correct, yes. And it's put on by AAA.
Very good.
Another thing I did, I tried to be strategic and apply for a lot of jobs before AAA. So that way, whenever I attended AAA, I did 8 interviews, and they were for all over the United States, but I only had to fly one place to get all of those 8 interviews done. So really being forward-thinking and trying to capitalize on that event is advisable.
Excellent strategy. So to close up here, Goldie, any podcasts, blogs, or YouTube channels to which you subscribe?
Yes, we do. So on YouTube, I follow Dr. Zubin Damania. His channel is ZDogMD. I know it sounds silly, but he's a legitimate professional internist. But it is called Against Medical Advice. He's talking about just how to elevate healthcare and make it just a better experience for both providers and patients. I just feel as though he has some very creative, forward-thinking ideas on healthcare, and that's how I start my mornings. I like just to catch up and listen to that. So,
excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today by phone and teaching us about audiology in Alaska, as well as your advocacy for the field, Goldie.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
You bet. And hopefully I can come visit you in Alaska someday.
Oh, hey, go for it. We would love to have visitors, so.
That's on my list of places to visit, so maybe I will knock on your door someday.
Absolutely. Hit me up.
To our listeners, that was Goldie Pappan Hall, audiologist in Wasilla, Alaska. Thank you for listening, and rock chalk.